It might sound strange, but justice, it actually has an expiration date. Seriously. In the legal world, it's like a stopwatch starts ticking the second something goes wrong. And if you wait too long, your chance to make things right could be gone, for good. So let's dive into how this justice stopwatch really works.
This is the big question, isn't it? You have a legitimate problem, someone has wronged you, but that clock is ticking in the background. If you let too much time pass, the courthouse doors could literally slam shut on you, and it won't matter how strong your case is.
Now, this isn't just some random rule they made up. It's a really important legal principle called limitation, and it's all laid out in something called the Limitation Act. The whole point is to make sure disputes eventually end, so people aren't looking over their shoulder forever, waiting for a lawsuit that could come at any time.
So, the moment you file a case, the first thing a court does is run through this four-step check. Let's say someone was supposed to pay you for a car on August 10th, and they just didn't. Okay, step 1, the cause of action. Is that non-payment? Step 2, when did it happen? August 10th. Step 3, the law usually gives you a set time, say 3 years. That's the period of limitation. And finally, step 4, the court does the math and figures out your final drop-dead deadline, the prescribed period.
And this, right here, is the line in the sand. The prescribed period isn't a suggestion, it's an absolute cutoff. If your case gets filed even one single day late, the law is crystal clear. It has to be dismissed. But what if you could pause the clock?
All right, let's talk about Section 15 of the Limitation Act. Think of this section as a set of legal pause buttons. These are very specific situations where a stopwatch that's already ticking can be temporarily stopped, giving you back that critical time.
So what kind of situations are we talking about? Well, Section 15 covers a few things. It kicks in if a court order is physically stopping you from filing a suit, or if you have to give the government a mandatory heads up before you sue them, or even if the person you're trying to sue has literally fled the country. Let's break a few of these down.
Okay, picture this. You are ready to go. Your case is prepared, you're about to file, and then boom, the other side gets an injunction from another court that says, nope, you can't file that lawsuit. The law basically says, hey, that's not fair. So the entire time that injunction is active, your limitation clock is paused. That time just doesn't count against you.
Now, what if the entity you need to sue is the government itself? Well, you can't just walk into court and file a case. The law says you first have to send them a formal notice. It's a way of giving them a chance to fix the problem before it turns into a full-blown lawsuit. And this mandatory waiting period is typically 2 months long. Because the law forces you to wait these 2 months, it also gives you that time back. Those 2 months are excluded from the countdown. They get added right back to your deadline. The clock is paused while you follow the rules.
All right, this next one's a bit more complex. What happens if the company you need to sue goes into liquidation? That means it's being officially shut down and dismantled by the courts. Things are chaotic, and a person called a liquidator gets appointed to handle everything.
During all this, you can't just sue the company like normal, so the law hits pause on the clock for you. The entire time from when the liquidation starts until 3 months after the liquidator is in place is totally excluded from your deadline. It gives everyone a chance to figure out what's going on.
And this one is just brilliantly fair. What if the person you need to sue decides to just pack their bags and leave the country to try and run out the clock? Well, the law is not going to let that happen. The entire time that defendant is out of India, your clock is paused. They can't escape justice just by getting a new passport stamp.
Okay, so everything we just talked about in Section 15 was about hitting pause on a clock that's already ticking. Now let's switch gears to Section 17, which is a whole different ballgame. This isn't about pausing the clock. It's about delaying the start of the clock, because the starting line was hidden from you.
So this is all about deception. Section 17 is for those situations where you've been a victim of fraud or a huge mistake was made, but the whole thing was concealed so well that you had no idea you'd even been wronged. How can the clock start if you don't even know there's a race?
Let's make this real with the olive oil example here. Imagine a supplier has been selling you fake olive oil for 5 straight years. The fraud began way back in 2020, but they were so slick you had no clue. Then, in 2025, you finally discover the deception. Now here's the magic of Section 17. Your 3-year clock to sue doesn't start back in 2020, no way. It starts the moment you found out, or reasonably could have found out in 2025.
So to sum it up, Section 17 pushes the start time of the clock until you, using reasonable diligence, actually discover the fraud,
or you realize a major mistake happened, like, oops, you accidentally paid an invoice twice. Or you find out a critical document you needed for your case was deliberately hidden from you.
But, and this is a really important but, there's a shield built into this rule. It's specifically there to protect innocent people who get caught in the crossfire of somebody else's fraud.
So let's lay out the scenario. A con artist sells a piece of property they don't actually own to a completely innocent buyer. This buyer pays good money, does their due diligence, and has absolutely no idea they're part of a scam. The original rightful owner eventually finds out. What a mess, right? What happens now?
While the law is very firm on this, it will not punish an innocent person for a crime they didn't commit. This bona fide purchaser, the person who bought the property in good faith, with no clue about the fraud, is protected.
So the outcome is clear. The innocent buyer gets to keep the property. The original owner's legal remedy is to go after the fraudster for the money they lost. They can't take back the property and penalize the innocent party who got caught in the middle.
Okay, we have covered a lot of ground here, so let's just pull back for a second and tie this all together so we're absolutely clear on the big picture.
If you remember one thing from all this, make it this distinction, right here. There are two ways the law can bend time for you. Section 15 is about exclusion. That's like hitting the pause button on a stopwatch that's already running. Section 17 is about postponement. That's delaying when the stopwatch even starts in the first place, usually because of fraud or a hidden mistake.
When you really boil it down, the Limitation Act is a huge balancing act. On one hand, it demands that you act quickly to protect your rights. But on the other, it carves out these absolutely crucial exceptions to make sure that strict deadlines don't create unfair results, especially when you were literally blocked or deceived.
And this brings us to one final thought. Society needs disputes to have an end date, for there to be finality. But at the same time, individuals deserve a fair shot at justice. It's this constant tension between the need for closure and the quest for fairness. So, if you are the one making the rules, where would you draw that line?